Hi, 8th grade. Today we're gonna continue in chapter 4 with lesson 2, graphing linear functions. So before we left for a break, we worked for many days on slope. And if you were able to get on yesterday, we reviewed slope. There were two ways that you could find slope. One was making the triangle if you had the graph. And the second way was using the formula. Okay? So these came right from the book. They were highlighted. A y-intercept is the point where the line on the graph crosses the y-axis. That's what the y-intercept is. A function, we've been working with function, it looks like this, right? This is a form that we've seen. Y equals, and then there's a coefficient, whether it's a fraction or not, and then x, and then plus 5. Right? And before, earlier in the year, we had our XY table and we would, substitute in 4 or 5 different numbers, -2, -1, 0, and we would solve this 5 times. So you've seen this style before, this form, but specifically, it's called slope-intercept form, okay? Slope-intercept. And that's when the y is all by itself and it's equal to something, x plus something. The m is slope, right? We've used m equals and then our formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And slope is m, right? So this is our slope. And b is our y-intercept. That's the point where the line on the graph crosses through the y. Okay? A linear function is a function with points that make a straight line. Okay, we were working with linear back in chapter 3 as well. Okay, so if we take this function as our first example and say y equals -3/4 x plus 5, one of the things they're going to ask you to do in today's lesson is going to be, let's see, what is their wording? Find the slope and the y-intercept. I'm just going to write int. Okay? Find the slope and the y-intercept. So simply, all they're asking you to do is to label which one is which from the numbers in here. So for our example, m equals -3/4. That's our slope. And the y-intercept is 5 because m comes first and b in slope-intercept comes last. So the y-intercept is 5 and slope is -3/4. Just simply reading the function that they give us and pulling out the information. It's just that simple, okay? Let's say, for example, 2, we have y equals -5/6 x minus 7. Okay, so again, we need to take these two numbers and determine which one is which. So m, the slope, is our first one. So it's -5/6. And the y-intercept is our second one, which is -7. This is the first part of our lesson today. Okay, simple. The second part is going to be, given information like this, you'll have to graph whatever the function is. Okay? So now I'm going to draw since I have paper, I'm going to move. So this is going to be my graph number 1 is example 3. And graph number 2 is going to be my example 4. So, let me switch pens, sorry. Sorry about that glare. Let's see if I can, I don't know if I can move that really. I'm gonna go right here because in my video, it looks like those are not in the shine. And I'm gonna use the same functions that we were working on. So the first one was y equals negative 3/4 x plus 5. This was from example 1. And then the second one we did was y equals negative 5/6 x minus 7. Okay. To graph these, the information we need is provided in the function. There's no math other than counting, basic, simple counting. The y-intercept, the second part, right, we define this. This is the point where the line hits the y-axis. So this is the y-axis right here, right? So this is the point. It's at 5. So we just go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is our slope. And we know what slope is. It's rise over run. Right? M equals. Sorry, I wrote that right in that. Rise over run. So from here, I'm supposed to go negative 3, so down 3, 1, 2, 3, and over to the right 4, a positive 4. So down 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2, 3, 4. Down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2, 3, 4. I always like to have 3 points because that's enough to make a straight line. Okay? Let me see if I can. Get a straight edge here. Connect the dots, and remember our graph should go through our coordinate plane. Okay, so I graphed this function is this line. Okay, let's do one more. And this time while we do it, we're gonna make some steps. Okay, so I'm gonna slide my notes sort of over. Okay, so step 1 is to start at the y-intercept, okay? So to graph. Start at B, which is the y-intercept. These are your notes, so you should write what makes sense to you. The second term, okay? Whatever you need to write, we're starting at this, whatever this number is, okay? And if it's a fraction, we can still graph and start as a fraction, right? If it was negative 7.5, then we would go a little bit past 7, halfway to 8. Okay, so negative 7, this is on the y-axis, so I'm gonna go down 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so step 2, start at the second one and then plot that number on the y-axis. Okay, it goes right on the line. We're going to plot that number, whatever it is, on the y-axis. Remember that these notes are for you. I know I just said that, but I hope that you're writing them down. And as always, if you need to pause or rewind it a little bit, please do, okay? Because you're going to send me a picture and your notes need to look like my notes. Okay, so from there, from that point, use M, which is the slope, to find 2 more points. I'm going to write, remember, positive and negative means direction. Okay, so you have to pay attention to those signs. Okay, so for our second example, we had negative 5, 6. So from 7, I have to go negative 5, 6. So down 1, 2, 3. I mean, I'm gonna go off the graph here, but that's okay. 4, 5. So it's about right here. But then I need to go over 6 to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to be about there. And it doesn't make sense to try and do it again because it's not going to be straight, right? Like going just 2 off the page is doable, but to go down another 5, I'm going to be all messed up. So instead, for my third point, I'm going to make the 5 positive, but the 6 negative, right? Because if it's negative, just one of the numbers has to be negative. If they were both negative, then it would be a double negative, which is positive. So as long as there's 1, it will work. So now if I make it a positive 5, that means I can go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then negative 6 means to the left 6. So after I'm up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I go to the left 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And there is my straight line, my 3 points, okay? I want it to go through my graph. So my next step, after plotting, using the slope to plot 2 more points, step 4, connect the dots. Slash points through the graph. Okay. I'm going to do a couple more together and I'm going to use my steps to help me. If you have your whiteboard or if you have, you should have a graph in your whiteboard, I would love for you to do the next ones with me. So these would have been good to put in your notes, right? They should have been. And if not, please pause it and trace one at least in your notes and then come back and we'll do a couple together. Okay. All right, here we go. Next one. Seem to have lost my paper towel. Okay. This time we're going to plot y equals 2x plus 4. So remember that y equals, this is in slope intercept, so mx plus b, where m is slope and b is the y, the point on y. So I'm going to start, if I use my notes, it's a start at b. So I'm going to start at 4. And I'm going to plot that, step 2, plot it on the y-axis. So up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then for step 3, I'm supposed to use the slope, but the slope is just 2. So since it's not in fraction form, I'm going to make it a fraction by putting it over 1. They're positive, both numbers are positive, so that means I'm going to go up, positive 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1, as many times as I want. If I had chosen to make, I don't know why, a double negative, which is positive, I would go down 2 and over 1. It's still on the line. Down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Using that straight edge. To go through the graph. I graphed this point. Last one. Last one. y equals 1/3 x. Okay, so remember, I want it to look like y equals mx plus b because I'm supposed to start at b. Notice that this one does not. Something is missing. So I'm just going to add nothing plus 0 so that it doesn't change the function, right? Because the function, whatever you do to one side, you have to do the other. You have to keep it balanced. But if I'm just adding 0, there's nothing that I have to worry about on the left side. But it gives me a starting point because the graph has a 0. So I start right at the origin. And then from here, I use the slope, which is 1/3. So rise over run, it's positive. So I'm going to go up 1 over 1, 2, 3. Up 1 over 1, 2, 3. Okay? And again, if I want to go negative, negative, down 1 over 3, just to keep the line going. Oops, that was only over 2. Okay? Use that straight edge. Get your lines all, your dots all lined up. Go through the graph. And you're good. All right, guys. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to help you during office hours. For homework today, we are going to be on page 126. And I'd like for you to do 6 through 20 even. So there's a few that are like this, where you're just identifying what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. And then there are a few that you will need to graph. So again, if you can print this graph paper or find something that is available, it will be easier than having to make 5 or 6 graphs on your own. All right, guys, good luck.